All right, page 152 in your textbooks as we begin our exam review time. Page 152, you'll notice it says Chapter 2. You might recall we already did all of the Chapter 1 review in an earlier lesson. I want you to do numbers 1 through 9, the odd, in the Chapter 2 review. 1 through 9, the odd, there in the Chapter 2 review section. There on page 152. Just a few moments to work these problems. When you're finished, pencil down, look up this way so I know you're finished. Brandon finished? All right, for sake of time, pencils down. Let's take a look at these. Number 1, what type of equation is this, Kendall?
Conditional.
And the answer is?
4.
4. Number 3, what type of equation is this? Michael?
Contradiction.
Yeah, it ends up telling you what?
10 equals -8.
Yeah, 10 equals -8. That's obviously a lie, so what's our answer?
Contradiction.
Well, it is a contradiction, but what's the no solution? There we go. Number 5. What type of equation do we have here? Genesis.
Identity.
Identity. Everything's gone. 0 equals 0, so our answer.
0.
What's the answer to an identity, class? No, she said it. All real numbers. There we go. All real numbers should have been our answer. Remember that R with the double stick there. Number 7, absolute value equation. What's the first thing we had to do, Maddie? Divide away the 5. And then from there we make 2 equations, remember. And what did you get for your 2 answers? 0 and negative 2. How many had those answers for number 7? Use the force. All right, number 9. It's a literal equation. Remember with literal equations, we said the key was to get all the x's on one side, all the non-x's on the other. So, Audrey, how did you rearrange your equation on number 9?
I had 3x plus 3xy plus 9x equals 8ab minus 12b.
There we go. So she went ahead and brought the negative 9x over as a positive, and then she ditched both of these terms to the right-hand side, which changed their signs. Then once we've got them separated out, we need to do what?
Factor.
Okay.
So you take out a 3x to y plus 3.
And if we're going to factor on the left, we might as well factor on the right.
You take out a 4b and you get 2a minus 3.
But the key is, since we're solving for x, that means we need to get the x by itself, so we finally divide away what?
The 3 and the y plus 3.
Right, both of these get divided away and leaves us with
4 times 2a minus 3 all over 3y plus 2.
There we go. It ain't pretty. There's no way to reduce it down, but that's the answer. And how many got this here for number 9, those who made it that far? Some of you didn't make it all the way to number 9. Are there questions on 9? Any questions on that? I want you to do 13, 15, 17 now. 13, 15, and 17. You don't need to graph the solutions for sake of time. Just write them as intervals. That's what we usually do in this class. Let's take a look at these together. First one, really straightforward. You solve it like you would an equation. The only difference is x is not equal to 4, it's less than 4, so negative infinity up to the 4. Because we have the or equal to, we use the bracket. How many good to go on 13? Numbers 15 and 17. Well, I slowly died. Absolute value, right? So you gotta have the positive, negative. Now, technically, class, you could kind of just look at this as, well, what if it equaled positive negative 8? And then we would end up with a negative 5 and positive 3. You could do separator points. You could test ranges. I don't like going through that. I like knowing that, hey, if it's greater than, it's going to fall outside the positive negative 8. And I just made two separate inequalities. That 2x plus 2 is smaller than the negative 8, and it's bigger than the positive 8. Solve from there, get my negative infinity to negative 5 and 3 to infinity. But the other method would work if you're more comfortable with the separator point idea. This one here was a less than. So that means it's going to fall in between the positive negative 15, as it turns out. And we end up with a negative 6 to 4 range, this time in brackets because of the or equal to. Here, no or equal to, just parentheses. Questions on 13, 15, or 17? How many got all three of them correct? All right, any questions at all? All right, do on the next page, 29 to 33. 29 to 33. Numbers 29 through 33. Brandon's done, Audrey's done. for sake of time, go to put your pencils down. Let's take a look at these. Number 29, just add the reals, add the imaginaries. What do we get here, Maddie? 18 plus 23i. Number 30, it says to subtract. Of course, we'll add the inverse. Make that a negative 4, make that a negative 8i. And then what do we get when we add, Genesis?
Negative 9 minus 5i.
Negative 9, negative 5i. Number 31, before you can multiply, class, what do you have to do first? Pull out your I. So it becomes I squared of 16 and I squared of 10. Or you could say 4i and I squared of 10 could work as well. What do we end up getting when we multiply here, Michael?
Negative 4 times the square root of 10.
Good. 4i squared times the square root of 10, but I squared is negative 1, so negative 4 times the square root of 10. Number 32, what do we have to do to multiply those together, Audrey? Foil. And what did you get when you multiplied first, outer, in, or last?
Negative 52, positive 23i.
Good. You ended with a negative 52, positive 23i. Initially, negative 10, and then your outer inner gives you that positive 23i. And your last initially is that positive 42i squared. Again, I squared is negative 1 becomes a negative 42, which combines with the negative 10. Negative 52 plus 23i. Number 33, we've got a two-term denominator, that complex denominator or divisor. And since I is the square root of negative 1, it's a two-term radical denominator. What do we have to do, Kendall?
Multiply that onto it.
Good. Let's go take a look at this one together since this tends to be a little bit more involved. We got the negative 11 positive 5i over the 3 negative 7i. Of course, the conjugate here, Kendall, is
3 plus 7i.
3 plus 7i, top and bottom. And of course, in the denominator, it's easy because we have a sum and difference. We do what three things?
Square the thing, square the last, square the minus 7.
And when we do, we get?
9 minus 49 I squared.
But since I squared is negative 1, this really becomes 9
Plus 49.
plus a 49, which is
58.
58. So our denominator simply comes out to 58. And then in the numerator, just like in the previous problem, we have to foil. So when we foil here, goodness, negative 77 positive is a negative 62i plus 35i squared. Of course, again, I squared class. Negative 1 makes this really a negative 35, and I'm getting a negative 68, negative 62i. And I can simplify that a little bit, anybody? I take out a 2. I could also factor out a negative if I wanted to and slide it out to the front to get a 34 plus 31i all over 29. Or you could separate it out and make it a negative 34 29ths, negative 31 29ths. A couple ways to write the final answer. But either of these would work. How many have that for number 33? Got questions on 33. What if we had this? It's not in your textbook, but go ahead and put it on your paper. 6 negative 21i all over negative 3i. Dividing by an imaginary value rather than a complex value. What do we need to do on a problem like this, Maddie? Just multiply the I, top and bottom. Of course, in the top, what do we have to do to multiply the I? To get? Which the negative 21i squared becomes a positive 21. So we really end up with 21 plus 6i. And then in the denominator, of course, it just gives us, which becomes positive 3. And so now we can easily divide to just get, or put the real before the imaginary, 7 plus 2i. Any questions on that? All right, your homework for this evening will be to do the front side of this review sheet. If you're watching on YouTube, it is in the description of the video. But do the first side, so numbers 1, 2, and 3, or sections, I guess you'd say 1, 2, and 3. We're going to be taking a look at this front side in our next lesson. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Exam, by the way, if you're watching on YouTube, coming up in lesson 89. Most of the lessons between now and then will be shorter review lessons, but lesson 89 will be your exam. Obviously, goes in here. That is Tuesday. Have a wonderful rest of your day. You are dismissed.